Hello, this is the Death Row and Executions channel. My name is Paco Rivera and I do presentations on an execution that will happen soon, including a story on what got the death row inmate sentenced to death. You can also follow me on Facebook for updates and more death row news. There will be a link to my Facebook in the description below. And you can check out my other channel here on YouTube called The Maximum Sentence, where I cover a recent crime and conviction. There will also be a link for that. As I mentioned previously, there are currently 3 executions scheduled on the same day by 3 different states. Carlos Cuesta Rodriguez in Oklahoma and Anthony Hines in Tennessee. I did a presentation on those 2 cases that have already appeared on this YouTube channel. And then there is Jeremy Williams in Alabama, the case that I will be talking about today. All 3 death row inmates are set to be executed on August 13th, if nothing changes between now and then. Well, we have some unique details with the upcoming execution of Jeremy Williams, scheduled for August 13th. For one, the death row inmate is only 41 years old, a bit younger than most death row inmates who were recently executed. 2, this crime happened in December of the year 2021. That's just a little over 4 years ago. And it is the most recent crime committed that I have done on this channel since I began covering upcoming executions that year, when I began this channel in 2021. Jeremy Williams was sentenced to death 3 years after committing his crime on April 15th of the year 2024. That's just about 2 years ago. So he has officially been on death row about 2 years. Hopefully, for the first time since I began this channel, I won't see hundreds of comments with this video, as I do with just about every video I have done, from viewers complaining about how long the death row inmate I did a presentation about has been on death row. I have explained the appeals process multiple times, trying to prevent that same complaint from so many people watching my videos, explaining why it takes so long between conviction and execution, but those complaints continue anyway. I can tell you that the reason Jeremy Williams will be executed so shortly after sentencing is because he has waived his rights to all his appeals. He will not be filing any appeals. And furthermore, he has requested that his execution be expedited and carried out quickly, and it appears that he has been granted that request. Anyway, I don't want to get too deep into this case because it is also one of the most twisted, sick, disgusting, and sad cases that I have researched. And most of you will be disgusted and appalled to learn that the mother of the victim was also heavily involved by allowing this monster to do to her daughter what he did, because he offered her money to allow him to abuse and violate her daughter, and she agreed. And when he ended up killing her daughter, she helped to cover up the crime. Of course, many of you will say that she also deserved the death penalty, but that did not happen. This is the story of a beautiful, innocent child named Kamarie Holland, who in 2021 was only 5 years old. Kamarie was the daughter of Corey Holland and Kristy Siple, but Corey and Siple were no longer together, and it was the father who was awarded full custody of Kamarie because the mother, Kristy Siple, had a severe drug abuse problem. However, she was allowed weekend visitation with Kamarie. Kristy Siple was living in Columbus, Georgia. On the morning of December 13th, 2021, a Monday, Kristy Siple called police and reported that her daughter was missing. When police arrived at the house in Columbus, Georgia to investigate, Siple told them that Kamarie was with her over the weekend and that she last saw Kamarie the night before, Sunday night, when she went to bed. But that when she woke up in the morning, she found the front door wide open and the girl was gone. Because Kristy Siple at that moment becomes the first suspect or person of interest, her cell phone communications and activity were checked forensically, and they discovered that Siple had been in contact the night before and throughout the evening with a man named Tremaine Williams. Well, investigators were very aware of Williams's prior history of child abuse, having been accused of violating minors on multiple occasions and was suspected of having killed his 1-month-old daughter in the year 2005. And when his electronic data was processed, they could see that he had traveled from the home of Kristy Siple the night before to an abandoned house that, even though located in a different state, in Alabama, was a relatively short distance away from Kristy Siple's home in Georgia. An abandoned house in Phenix City, Alabama, where investigators learned that Tremaine Williams had once lived. Later on that evening, on the same day that Kristy Siple reported her daughter missing, December 13th, police descended on the abandoned house in Phenix City, and once inside, they discovered the dead body of Kamarie Holland, who had been brutally violated and strangled. The medical examiner would also later report that Kamarie had a large amount of methamphetamine in her system. Tremaine Williams was eventually tracked down at the Bamboo Motel on Opelika Road in Phenix City, where he was staying with a relative. He was arrested and charged with violating a minor and capital murder. It was later learned that Williams had also video recorded his indecent violations of Kamarie Holland on the night that she was killed. And he had continued to perform various indecent acts with her corpse. Investigators would learn that Tremaine Williams and Kristy Siple were involved in a friends with benefits type relationship where Siple had regularly engaged in intimacy or performed various acts on Williams in exchange for drugs. And on that Saturday night, the night of December 12th, while he was at her home, he had offered to pay Kristy Siple to take advantage of her daughter, Kamarie. According to reports, Kristy had asked for $2,500, but Williams instead offered her $1,300, and they agreed to that amount. And that's when Williams took Kamarie from the home and brought her to Phenix City in Alabama. Williams never did pay the mother for the sale of her daughter. Kristy Siple was arrested and basically charged with all the same crimes as Tremaine Williams, which included capital murder, making her eligible for the death penalty. And in addition, was charged with human trafficking. Following legal litigation back and forth, she avoided a possible death penalty or life without parole sentence by pleading guilty to the human trafficking charge in March of 2024. And in July of that year, a judge formally handed down the maximum 20-year prison sentence for that crime. I know that sentence seems too light for what she did. And as I mentioned earlier, Tremaine Williams is set to be put to death in Alabama on August 13th of this year. Please go ahead and hit the subscribe button for more of these death row and upcoming execution stories so that you're alerted when the next one comes out. You can also follow me on Facebook for updates and more death row news. There will be a link to my Facebook in the description below. My name is Paco Rivera. Thank you for watching. Take care and bye for now.